Welcome back, guys. Yesterday I got out the hospital. Today's my first day out, feeling like T Grizzly Gucci Man, you know. And I'm excited to be home. I am back in my element. I did my face routine, and I'm just feeling more like myself. And I felt, when I was doing my hair, like I just felt compelled to share, right? And so this is just a sharing of emotions. If you watched my video yesterday, I gave you a synopsis on my health journey, what that looked like from being with type 1 diabetes at the age of 3 to being diagnosed with leukemia, um, to going through years and years and years of hospitalizations and not really knowing what the issue was, to then finding that out last year, right? And with all of those things happening, right, I really just wanted to talk about the social emotional toll that things like that took on me and can take on people, just for people to have that into consideration, right? And so, as you can imagine, something that was really hard for me was having normalcy, right? I never truly felt like I had a foundation. I never really felt like I was in a place to build anything, right? I was always in crisis mode. It was always, what's going to happen if I go to the hospital? Do I have enough money to pay rent? Do I have enough money to pay my bills? Um, am I going to get behind if I'm out of work, right? Because this is like 2012. This was happening in 2012 to 2022. And so this is like prior to the pandemic happening and everybody can do remote work, right? Most of the times I had jobs where you had to be in a brick and mortar to be paid for the work. If you weren't there, you're not paid, right? And so for years it was just inconsistent fluctuations in my cash flow, um, which means not really being able to take care of myself in the ways that I needed to, um, which is scary, right? As an adult, you can't really give yourself a solid foundation, not because you don't want to, but just because you're not really in a position to, because there's no consistency. I'm in the hospital sometimes for 2 3 weeks on end, right? Hospital bills racking up. um I don't know what is wrong. Nothing that I'm doing is working, and I'm scared, right? Like to say the least, I am scared. I am lost. I got to a place of really being, like I said yesterday, in a really dark place, kind of feeling like helpless. It's like, what do I do? I have tried everything, nothing is working. I'm pleading with God. I'm like, what did I do to deserve this, right? Like, why am I in this position? And it really took a toll on my mental health. I felt like I couldn't be there for myself first and foremost, right? And I couldn't be there for other people that I loved. And even when I wasn't in the hospital, I wasn't there. Like, like I wasn't fully present in the ways that I would have liked to have been. Because I was always just in my head. I was always thinking, I was always planning, I was always off in la la land trying to make sure that, if I do go to the hospital, if I do get sick, what do I have in place, right? That's going to make sure that I'm okay. What do I have in place that's going to make sure I still have a roof over my head when I get out of the hospital? What do I have in place that's going to make sure I still have a job when I get out of the hospital, right? I've lost jobs behind it. I've lost, relationships. There's been so many things that happen just in the midst of being sick, right? So I tell the story and you hear the, oh my gosh, this sounds horrible. And it definitely is horrible to be in the hospital all the time, but I think it was even worse the emotional place that I was in, and not really wanting to fully lean on any one person, because I don't want to be an emotional burden for people, right? Because at the end of the day, everybody has their own issues, right? Kay definitely has her issues for sure. And I know that people love me and are there for me, but you never want to, or I never wanted to be a burden to anybody. I never wanted to be, oh, here she comes again. I think a lot of people even got numb to hearing that I was in the hospital. Like, I remember one time I had asked my friend, I said something about I was in the hospital, blah, blah, blah. And, they just carried on the conversation. And I had texted them separately. I'm like, you know, are you kind of numb to the fact that I'm in the hospital? Because I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised. I wasn't even mad at her. I'm like, I think that's pretty normal. Like, it's like you say it so much, it's not like there's no shock value anymore. Like, this is like a regular thing. And so I withdrew a lot from a lot of people. I think, and it was such a big gap of time in my life. 10 years is a long time. It's a full decade um, of not knowing what to do to help, right? So myself, I can't imagine how my friends and my family must have felt, how helpless they must feel and felt when there's nothing that they can do. They're not really getting answers, and I'm only giving them half the information because it's like, again, I'm not trying to be a burden. I'm not trying to tell you like, yeah, I'm depressed and blah blah blah. Like, it was just so engulfing. It was just such an experience. And it, like, I can't explain it fully, but what I do know is that I met a lot of people on the way that are feeling similarly. A lot of the women that I met have, like, different kind of hormonal issues like PCOS and endometriosis, and there seems to not be a whole lot of information for the different issues that women face in general, right? These hormonal issues and women's wellness, it seems like it's not on the forefront of any one medical field's mind, right? And it's very frustrating to have this issue, to be diagnosed with something, and to continue to hit brick walls, right? And to not know what's going to help, and to have a sharp decline in your quality of life. Thankfully, I didn't have any kids that I had to take care of, but a lot of the women that I know and that I have met, they do, right? So that's an added layer to this scenario. Um, and it, like, I don't think anybody can fully understand what it must feel like to be grown and to feel like a helpless child, right? Like, you just can't take care of yourself. Not because, you're not smart, that you're not capable, that you're not putting your best foot forward, but just because you don't really have all the tools necessary, all the information necessary just to be healthy, just to be, at bay, in homeostasis, within your body. Um, and I don't even know if I can fully explain it to someone who's never gone through it. Um, but I know in my experience, I learned that I'm not the only person that feels that way. So many people are frustrated. So many women are frustrated at hitting the wall, and it's seeming like nobody really cares. That's the scariest part about it. It's like, where are the advancements for this? I'm not saying that there haven't been, but it's just like I read the same 17, 18 articles back to back to back about this information. And it's like, I don't even know if anybody is putting any research towards it, or anybody cares enough to say, yes, you know what, you have a hormonal issue. People push birth control. I literally had a gynecologist that told me I need to have a baby to fix my hormone issues. He was like, yeah, have a kid. This will all go away. Are you kidding me? What? Like, he was dead serious, y'all. Like, like, you would never imagine the things that we have to deal with. Like, I feel for people who unfortunately weren't dealt the best, genetic code cards, and are just predisposed to so many different medical ailments and issues and things like that, and they have to deal with this, with being in the medical system so frequently. um I It feels good to talk about it, with the journey, with me being on the other side, and I'm not even that far on the other side. I'm like just over the fence, like just learning. I'm just thankful to know what it is, right? I'm still not at a point where I'm like, okay, I'm in the rabbit hole of finding out, okay, how do you naturally fix your hormonal imbalance, right? How do I create, you know, a natural balance in amongst my hormones through diet or exercise and things like that? I don't want to be on birth control forever. That's not the fix, but that's what they'll throw at you. And at this point, I'll take it because you know what? It's keeping me out of the hospital. It's bare minimum. But it's like, what about people that want to have kids? What about people that just don't want to be on, drugs forever? It's just, oh man, it is frustrating. It it makes you angry. There's so many questions and not enough answers, you know? And a lot of these things aren't really that new. Um, what's interesting to me is doctors don't really check, like, when and maybe this is something that some doctors do, and maybe it just wasn't the doctors that I was seeing, but you know it, shouldn't a hormone panel be done, like, for women automatically? I mean, when you get to a certain age, I don't know, like, this, if this is so prevalent, or you know it, I don't know. Anyway, I kind of went off on a rant about that. The point was, I wanted to talk about socially, emotionally, right? So never really having a solid foundation, being sick all the time, not being able to keep a job, you know, just and if you know me, Kay works. Kay always got 2 or 3 jobs, blah blah blah. You know why I have 2 or 3 jobs? Because I have PTSD. I have several jobs just in case one fires me. You know what? I have this other source of income. I have several jobs because I have PTSD. I'm afraid to get fired and not have a source of income. So yes, I'm always on like 17 payrolls for that reason. And it's like, that alone is, it's taxing mentally, emotionally, physically, right? Um, I feel like I always have to start over, right? Every time I go to the hospital and I come home, even right now, right? It's like a brand new start. We're on the other end of a recent hospital visit, right? So I come back and I get back in my routine, and I get back to meal prepping, and I get back to going to the gym, and I get back in the groove. I get back on, being caught up on, work, and then you feel good, and then you might get sick and hit the hospital again, right? And then the process starts all over. And can you imagine doing that for 10 years, right? And this is not even a woe is me. This is just like to give you some insight, right? To give you some emotional insight on what was going on, how that felt, like what that looked like for me, right? And again, I'm talking about this in hindsight now, right? Because I'm working through it. I've been, I've done the therapy thing. I've done the, the processing through my emotions, and I'm currently still processing through that. It's just that I feel like this happens. I'm like, I am someone who, this is an extreme case, right? It's hectic for sure, but I know that I'm not alone. I've met so many women. Every time I'm in the hospital, actually, I might meet like a diabetic educator, or a specialist that comes in, and when I start getting to talking to them about my story, they're like, oh my god, something similar happened to my friend or my sister, or yeah, I also have something similar. And but like, what? Like, this is not even like, this is not uncommon. It should be. I thought it was an anomaly. Like, I, this is crazy that it's so common. I I don't know. I don't know. And what's scary about this is that I believe in holistic wellness, right? So I believe in the brain body connection. And if you believe in that, you know that ultimately everything that you do, everything that you've ever did, the body keeps the score, right? PTSD and trauma, it shows up it can show up as illness in the body, right? And so sometimes I have to catch myself processing, like, make sure that I'm processing these things, make sure I'm having a healthy outlet so that this doesn't show up in some form of a cold or some form of a new allergy or some form of, my cancer getting worse. Like, um it's just, I don't know. I lived on edge for a long time. Um it's just I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to God to be able to talk about this in past tense. And I think that's really why I'm sharing it now, just to get it out, just for, again, for people to understand like what kind of headspace you must be in. Um, I feel like I'm 31 and I almost feel 18 in terms of, just milestone wise, right? Because I feel like I 10 years was just taken off of my life of normalcy. I spent a good 10 years in and out of the hospital, not really being able to build, kind of building in between, right? In between not being in the hospital. But I'm grateful that I'm now finally building a foundation. I'm grateful that I had that opportunity. I'm grateful that, you know, nothing really, nothing major was taken away. No, I'm lying. Time. Time. That 10 years, that's major. That's major. That set me back a lot. That set me back a lot. And I can still say that I'm grateful to God for all that I have been able to do and see in the meantime, in between time. But I feel like for these past 10 years, I've been living my life in between hospital visits, you know? Um, it's like in between. It's like it's almost the equivalent to, like, you party, you go see your friends on the weekend, blah blah blah. I feel like that was me in between hospital visits. It's like, oh, how can I build it? I mean, eventually I got to a point where I was able to work from the hospital, right? Because I got a remote job, and I was able to go to school online, and there was definitely an attempt from me to try my best in between with my circumstances to still make something, right? Say, to make some kind of lemonade out of these lemons. But man, 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 to say that I'm not angry, to say that I'm not frustrated, to say that I'm not sad, um, will be a lie. Yeah. And I just really, I kind of wanted to get that out. Um, I felt like it's good for people to know with the chapter that I'm in, the chapter of healing, the chapter of elevating, the chapter of building that I'm in. I think it's necessary to address those feelings. I think it's necessary for people to understand that, like, you know, a lot of people probably see me as, oh, Kayla's always so happy, Kayla's always so nice, Kayla's always so sweet. Yes. And internally, Kayla was fighting the devil, you know? Internally, Kayla was really in another place completely. And I'm grateful to be able to be present currently. I'm grateful to be able to make changes. I'm grateful to just be in a different place, bro. Like, and for anybody who may be feeling that way now, for anybody who's not on the other side of, learning what it is that maybe you have going on, or what it is that's going to work to heal it, or what it is for you to have a semi-normal life, what it is for you to show up to be able to show up for yourself and for others that you love. I am rooting for you. This does not last forever. And I hope that you keep that in the back of your head. I hope that you have faith. I hope that you have hope. Um, Even when it's super dark. I hope that you know that. And I hope that you get a glimmer of light really, really, really soon. Even if it's a small one. You know? Yeah. Yeah. And that's my 2 cents for today.